All right, what's going on? So hopefully you can hear me pretty well. Uh, Welcome to the Rapper Geek YouTube channel. So what I want to talk about today is the fact that small talk is exhausting. It is extremely exhausting. Can you see the bags in my eyes? Can you see how tired I look? I've been having small talk all day. I'm tired of it. Tired of small talk. I'm ready to have some interesting conversations. Not just with myself either, because I have very good conversations with me. But I want to have some good conversations with other people too. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to include, other people in these deep conversations I be having with myself. So anyway, on a serious note, right? Um, there's a few things that I want to talk about, right? One thing that has really been on my mind a lot lately is value. You know, we we're all moving around in this world. We're creating our value. We're communicating our value. We're trying to sell people on our value. And I'm gonna tell you one thing for me. I've always felt like I didn't really have anything to offer. I never felt like I had anything to offer other people because I always thought that you know what people wanted was money. I never really had money. You know what I'm saying? Like I never, even when I was rapping about having money, I never had money. So, um, you know, like I said, because I didn't have money, I always thought like, well, nobody's going to want to. And to give you a specific example, right? Going back to my music days, and I was trying to build people around me, build up a team, and get people to rock with me, right? But I always thought nobody would because, like I said, I didn't have the money to pay people, for certain things, right? And I noticed that, I was always a big fan of like MGK, right? And I noticed how MGK he had a whole movement behind him, right? He had Slim, he had Dub, he had Ash, and anybody who's a MGK fan, you know those people that I just named. Um, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't have the money to pay people like that. But I'm like, but does he? I don't think he has the money to pay people, pay those people either. I don't think he was paying Dub or Slim or none of them, right? But they believed in what he had going on. You know what I'm saying? Like he believed in what he was doing so much that they believed in him and they was willing to take that bet, right? And here I am thinking that it's just money. You know, you got to be able to pay people to do stuff like that. And again, I wasn't able to do that. So for the longest time, throughout my music career, if that's what you want to call it, me trying to do my thing in music, I always thought that, you know, it's just all on me, until I'm at a point where I can pay somebody to become a part of this movement, right? But I didn't like I said, I didn't realize exactly. Like I said, I didn't really I didn't understand what I had to offer, and it wasn't until recently I realized what exactly I could have offered, right? Because recently I discovered something we call resource theory, right? And I haven't found much um, material on resource theory. Not as much material as I would like um, like to consume, right? Because I'm always consuming content, right? But I haven't found as much material as I would like. But resource theory is basically the idea that there are six different quote unquote resources that you can offer somebody in exchange for value, right? So obviously the main one that you think of is money. Everybody thinks of money. Like if I want something done, I got to be able to pay people to do it. I pay them money to do it, right? Then you also might, think outside the box like, okay, if I don't have money, maybe I have things that I can give them. I can gift them things, right? So gifts are another resource. But then there's also favors or services, right? That's another resource, right? Like if you don't have money, but you have time, then you can do things for certain people, right? And I know Gary V always talked about that. If you don't have money, then you more than likely have time. You can invest your time in other people. Um, so to my knowledge, like those were the only resources that really were my um within my understanding, right? Um, but it wasn't until I discovered resource theory, and again, like I wasn't even necessarily thinking about those three, right, or those last two, because obviously I was always thinking it was just money. If you don't have money, then you can't pay people to do stuff that you want them to do, you know. But I wasn't thinking outside the box. I wasn't thinking like what physical tangible things could I trade for people's help, what I'm saying, or people's involvement in what I had going on, right? Or what favors could I do for them? Like how can I use my time to benefit them? I wasn't really thinking about that type of stuff, right? But then I started to discover resource theory, right? Or once I discovered resource theory, um that's really kind of what changed the game for me. Um because there are three other resources besides the ones that I just mentioned that people find beneficial, right? And again, the main thing that people would think about when it comes to resources are money. Obviously, that's the first thing probably most people will probably think of. Then there's gifts, exchanging physical things or products for um, people's help. Um, but then of course, and there's also services, um, doing things for people. That's and excuse me, I'm trying to pull up some stuff here that was in front of me. Um, but another another form of a resource is status. Status is also a resource. And I learned this from shout out to Vanessa Van Edwards, right? I learned this from her. She was doing an interview where she was talking about how she was she was trying to reward one of her employees, and she wanted to reward this employee with a raise, right? So she did all of this work and moving around and rebudgeting and stuff to try to figure out how could I, properly give this person a raise. And um, so she was excited and she met with this person to tell her that she was getting a raise. And this individual kind of looked at her and was like, "Oh, okay, cool, right?" And it kind of like it fucked her up a little bit. And honestly, I've done that. Like I've had jobs give me a raise, and I just have no, you know, like response whatsoever. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, nice. And so she realized that money isn't always the resource that really knocks people's socks off. As a matter of fact, I believe she said that if you're relying on money as the only resource that you're giving people, then you're actually doing them a disservice, right? So one thing she realized was this lady liked status. This particular employee reacted and responded to status. So she's like, okay, what kind, like, how can I put this person in a higher position, or not even necessarily just a higher position, but make them responsible of something, make them in charge of something, right? And so she recalibrated, and she gave this person this position, right? This perceived status, and this employee was like hype about this, right? And so that's something that that's something that you can give. Like if you can give somebody a feeling of higher status, you know, then that can, you know what I'm saying, like that can get them uh loyal, you know what I'm saying, like loyal to you. Like that can be a better resource than just giving them money, right? So when you look at it from a relationship standpoint, right? When you're giving somebody a title, if I'm saying like, hey, I want you to be my girlfriend, right? Or I want you to be my boyfriend. You are giving that person a particular status. You know what I'm saying? Like you are you are actually giving them an esteem boost because you are giving them a sort of you are giving them status. You're giving them a level of importance over most other people. Like, yeah, you might be in his inbox, but I'm his girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? Like that's status. And that's a resource. You know, that makes it get like I said, it gives people that esteem boost, that validation, right? And like especially if you're in the music industry, right? You see it all the time. What do people offer you? What do people say? I can't pay you, but I can offer you some exposure. I can offer you some exposure if you come do this show. I can offer you some exposure, if you get in this magazine or whatever, you know, just pay $25 for a spread, and I can get you some exposure to a new audience, right? Like that's status. Like I can put you in front of people you haven't been in front of before. Like that's status, right? And of course, that's status in exchange for money in certain cases, or if they're trying to just perform for free or whatever. um, they think that they'll be paying you in status. That is, like I said, that is a resource. Sometimes it might not be a much of a beneficial resource, but it's a resource nonetheless, right? So status is a resource, right? Love is a resource. Knowing that somebody enjoys your company is actually a resource, right? And you see that in the well, I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. I've never really been in the dating market, honestly, but you see it in the dating world. At least people talking about it in the dating world, right? Like certain people in the dating world, they get their validation knowing that somebody enjoys their company. Like that's love, right? If you're spending time with somebody, you know, having conversations with them, showing that you give a shit, right? That's love. That's a resource. If you think about it, like people give people do a lot to receive love, and however you want to define, love, right? Attention, validation, whatever the case may be, however you want to define love or look at love or whatever the case may be, like love is a resource. You know, if you can give somebody um a certain amount of love, and it's going, what I'm saying, and it makes them feel good. You know, a lot of people will exchange, a lot for that, right? And I'm gonna try to find the uh, I'm gonna try to find the write up that I found about resource theory, um, because it was the only thing that I could really find, and it was a paper from some school in Canada, I believe, but I can't remember it. I should have had it in front of me, um, but it is what it is. But This was the only like extensive deep dive into this subject that I could find. And if anybody's watching this and you have any information on resource theory, like I would love to read it, hear it, listen to it, whatever the case may be, right? So the final resource that which is actually my favorite resource, to tell you the truth, is information. A lot of people will trade um for information, right? We go to school and trade money, well, the government's money that we got to pay back later on. It's neither here nor there. But we go to school and trade money for information, right? Um, and also status, because we get that college degree, it's like that gives us a certain amount of status, right? But we buy courses online, right? To we trade our money for information, right? We trade services for information. That's why a lot of people, like the Gary V's of the world, will tell you work for free because the information that you get sometimes is way more beneficial than any amount of money that you could get from an individual, right? You know, and to me, I'm addicted to learning. I love learning. I love learning, and like I said, that's why I left information for last because it's my favorite resource, right? If you can feed me new information, new intelligence, right? That is something that I value heavily. And if you get to the point where you start to value information, then you'll realize just how valuable of a resource information actually is, right? Um, so yeah, those are the six resources. And like I said, that's something that I never really understood. So I did have, when I was doing music, I did have people that were working with me. I did have people that joined my crew, right? And for some reason they joined up with me because they felt like they could get one of those six resources out of being with me, right? I mean, obviously it wasn't money because I didn't have money, right? One guy actually did he tried to say that we owed him money. I owed him money because I was selling a $3 mixtape that he had like one verse on. Yeah, that was weird. But but they were they were part of my crew because they felt like they could get one of those six resources, if not now, but in the future, right? Obviously, there wasn't any money because there was no money being made, you know, not any big money, but there was the potential of making money, in the future. Um, Goods, and like maybe they thought they could, receive, I don't know, receive goods from, being with me. I don't know. Um, Services, right? A lot of them dudes they got in the studio for free. You know what I'm saying? So like, and plus I was helping to write for a lot of these guys. So you know, you're getting free services here. You know, um, I mean, we was like I said, we was a crew. We was a crew for a long time. So there was love there around amongst some of us. Some of us, there was no love, but you know, there was a sense of love there. Like we hung out together. We had good times in the studio. You know what I'm saying? So there was a camaraderie somewhat, a little bit. Um, Information like they learned things being a part of what I had going on, right? They learned things that they didn't know before, you know, things that they would have, eventually learned, but they learned a little bit faster by being a part of what I had going on, right? And, you know, status, right? a crew, like, we had a crew, a nice little crew. It was about six of us. So it's like you hear six people deep on a song representing one group. You know, you see six people deep walking in the mall. You know what I'm saying? That gives you a perceived status, right? Um, I'm part of a crew. I'm not just doing this by myself. Like, we actually making music. We actually doing, it gave us a perceived status, right? It also gave me a perceived status because people were a part of what I had going on for a time being, right? I just didn't wasn't really consistent with it. So I say all that to say this: we all have something. We all have something to offer. We all have something that we can provide to other people, that we can provide to the world. Maybe it's not money, you know. Maybe it's not money. The first thing that we think of usually is money. We think everybody wants money. A lot of people do want money. We want to get paid for our time and our value. We should get paid for our time and our value. But a lot of times it's not always about money. And I don't, and it could be a situation where people don't necessarily know exactly what value they're looking for, but there's some sort of value that they're getting that isn't always money. So take the time to think about that. Which of those six resources do you have readily available? Which of those six resources do people come to you for? Now, I would say people come to me for love and information because, I give people that feeling of someone enjoying their company, you know, um, and information. People talk to me to get my perspective on things, right? You know, that's information. That's a resource. They can choose whether or not to use the information that I provide, but that is a resource to them. So figure out which of these six resources you provide better than anybody. That is the value that you bring. Hope this message resonated with somebody. If it did, let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you next time.